What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some r/am I the butthole. All of today's stories will be the top pinned comments, so please feel free to go and get involved and share your opinion there too. I'm sure they would love to hear it. And just a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart for getting involved with the channel, and taking 20 minutes out of your day to be here means the absolute world. And with that being said, let's just crack on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, I spotted this story this morning. I thought, ooh, that's a bit different. That's a bit cheeky. Let's do this. Hot Context 7453 says, am I the arsehole? I work in publishing. Mum keeps giving my contact info to aspiring writers. I am rude to them. I am a senior editor at a publishing house. First piece of advice on being hired was to not tell people I work in publishing, because they asked me to look at their manuscript. I thought this was a joke, but the first time I told someone that I was in publishing, you get one guess what they said. My mother sees this as a bonus and wants to brag about everyone and their dog about my daughter the publisher, and my daughter who could find the next J.K. Rowling, and my daughter who can part the Red Sea with only a green pen. She finishes her boasting with giving them my contact information. I've asked her to stop it once, I've asked her to stop it 1,000 times, and yet I'm still getting contact by the nephew of my mother's butcher or my cousin's girlfriend's cousin, saying mum gave them my information so they could show me their work. I then tell them to get lost. I even have a template that I send back to most of them saying that there is a process in place for a reason, along with an outline of this process. If they get pushy, which they always do, I respond that the reason the process exists is so people like them don't waste my time, as I could be using this time to find a manuscript actually worth publishing. Which theirs clearly isn't, because if it was, they could go through the regular channels like everyone else, rather than contact me directly and request special treatment. In conclusion, I am not kind to these people. The consequence of this is that I am gradually ostracizing my mother from her social circles, as people have begun to blame her for me reaming out their acquaintance. Mum has asked that I be nicer. I've asked her to stop putting me in this position. Mum claims that she stopped giving my info to people, and these are just stragglers, but they just keep coming, so I'm not fully convinced that she stopped giving out my information. I told Mum that if they get pushy after they receive the template, I reserve the right to give them everything I've got, but Mama said that I'm being really unfair, both to her and the aspiring authors, and that I'm ruining her reputation, so I need to stop being so rude. I said I will deal with them however I feel is appropriate, and this wouldn't happen if she didn't give my info out. She says she learned a lesson, so I need to stop. I said I'll stop when people stop using her as a reference. She says that I'm enjoying humiliating and upsetting both these people and her, and the next time she hears from me she's expecting an apology. Am I the arsehole? Edit in regards to the people saying that I may be costing us potentially valuable authors. If the material can stand up on its own, then they can go through the regular process, as we will be able to identify good writing. If they don't trust us that we can identify good writing, then they should not be working with us. If they do trust us but want to skip the line anyway, they are not someone we want to work with, as this suggests that they want special treatment, which will not end with me reading their manuscript, and is likely to be a recurring theme throughout working with them. Now, I'm coming into this one not knowing anything about publishing, but I kind of put it along the lines of, like receiving spam emails or telemarketing calls or something like that. And I don't totally blame the people for trying to get a boost to their careers, because I think in anything like that, and coming through, and I know it's not quite the same, but doing YouTube, you're trying to get little boosts where you can, and you try to pick up on every little advantage you can to try and help yourself out, give yourself a little leg up, because sometimes it's just needed. No, I don't know if it's the same in publishing and, get your book published and stuff like that, but I'm kind of seeing it that way at the moment, which might be totally wrong. So I can't see you being the arsehole in this one. It is not the arsehole for me, but there is a very slight urge to want to say everyone sucks here, and it's mainly because you say you got a template in this situation, so you send them the template, which is absolutely fine, and then it should be just left to that. You should just mark this person is spam in your inbox, and then just leave it at that, rather than going down the route of responding to them with, and I quote again, I respond that the reason process exists is so people like them don't waste my time, and I could be using this time to find a manuscript actually worth publishing. And it's more like you'd be calling yourself an arsehole. It seems like you might be doing yourself a disservice by even replying to it, when you could just mark it spam and ignore it after your template email. I don't think you need to go any further, because say this person then does become famous. I know this is very hypothetical here, and then they're going to look down on you, and you've built yourself a reputation, and that's the person that turned me down. But I don't know. I've gone totally off there. I know I've gone totally off, but that was just my thinking. But let's not forget, the mum is the biggest arsehole in this situation, okay? And the entitled people as well. The entitled people that's trying to push it on you and being absolutely rude. There's no need for that. But the mum is the biggest arsehole for handing out these. And it's not the arsehole for me in this situation, but that was just some thinking, okay? But Hirora6 says, not the arsehole. I used to work for a bookstore reviewing and accepting/rejecting local self-published author submissions. I know exactly how pushy aspiring authors can be. And Lenore Skellington says, not the arsehole. Tell anyone who contacts you with your mother's credentials it will cost them this amount, however much you want to charge, for you to look at their manuscripts. It's your job, so you should be paid for it. Just make sure to charge a large enough sum that you scare off the people who aren't serious. And Dear Analyst 5116 says, not the arsehole. You're under no obligation to be polite to pushy arseholes that contact you after your mother has improperly given them your info. Mum's rep being ruined is only because she can't resist playing the big shot. Knows big publishing exec. Her misery stops as soon as she quits giving away your info. Stragglers, gee, maybe she shouldn't have been so free about giving away your name. And if they're that late, can't see how it would be enough of a connection to her. And Lost Canuck says, not the arsehole. You've asked your mother and clarified with aspiring writers that this is not how it works. Might be a time to say that you're sorry, but your job was explained incorrectly, and you'll be happy to forward the process to them while wishing them luck on their journey. And Greaseoil says, not the arsehole. What you're doing sounds good to me, since your mum does not appear to be complying with your request to stop giving out your contact information, and you do not need to apologise to her. And we'll have one more from Dangerous Bean 74 saying, not the arsehole. As a former literary agent, I can testify to the fact that there is nothing more obnoxious or entitled than an aspiring author. Also, to be honest, keeping agents and editors slightly difficult to reach so that aspiring authors have to do a bit of legwork to find them is a good way to weed out those who aren't really serious about seeing publishing as a business. Getting published is hard work, and it's not hurtful to try and clear the weeds a bit, especially those who have ridiculous expectations of being published despite being untalented, not having marketable manuscripts, etc. And there are so many of them. You asked your mother nicely to not give out your info, which was reasonable. She did it anyway. It is a harsh industry truth that you have to be, well, not rude, but harshly honest, because otherwise you will find yourself inundated with unsolicited submissions that can take all your time to deal with. And people don't realise that that's unpaid time, on top of your regular workload. You don't owe anyone other than your employer your labour, and certainly not for free. And if they demand it of you, you have the right to set boundaries and be blunt with them. And a bit of inside knowledge there as well. I always like getting a bit of inside info because, I don't know what I'm talking about. What I said is total nonsense. It's always good to get a bit of inside info. And now let's move on to the next story. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole for calling my husband delusional for expecting me to rehire the babysitter after she read our daughter's journal? My husband and I work long shifts. We have 3 kids, and for years we've been hiring babysitters of different kinds to help with the kids. My oldest is my 14-year-old daughter Lauren. She's been going through a hard phase after her best friend passed away from leukemia in December. It impacted her hugely. She received therapy for 2 months and is doing better now, but grief has no timeline, and she misses her bestie so much. I do all I can to be available and lend a comforting shoulder. We've got her a new journal to write down about her thoughts and feelings, and she's been doing a lot better since she had it. We were looking for a babysitter and my husband suggested his friend's 17-year-old daughter. I know her, so I said yes right away. She worked for us for weeks. She sometimes teased Lauren about her being uptight, never smiling, giving her a nickname Grinch. I told her to stop it, but she said she was just messing with her, trying to get her to cheer up. No biggie. Days ago while I was working, Lauren called me and was crying, saying I needed to come home. I freaked out, and when I got there I saw babysitter sitting with the kids. Lauren was upstairs. She said the babysitter took her journal and started reading it out loud in front of the kids while recording herself. I was pissed as fuck. I asked the babysitter and she said she was just messing with Lauren, showing her that it's okay to speak emotions out loud instead of bottling up. She really thought she was helping her overcome her fear to express herself. I yelled, saying it wasn't her place, and that caused more trouble than ever. She apologized and swore she deleted the video, but I told her she could no longer work for us and needed to leave. She broke down crying and apologizing to me and Lauren, but I refused to let her keep her job. I know Lauren doesn't want to be around her anymore. My husband came home and was upset that I let the babysitter go, reminding me that this was his friend's daughter and I shouldn't have made her leave. He argued that I handled this the wrong way and that I should have been the adult in the situation instead of yelling and kicking her out. I explained what she did to Lauren, but he said, "I agree with you on this. She should have known better, but she didn't. Kids her age make mistakes. What's done is done. She apologized, so we should give her another chance." He kept on about how this impacted his friendship of 14 years. Also said we're now without a babysitter and his trip is this week, so I had no choice but to let her come back, but I said no. She will never step foot in the house again. He called me unreasonable by referring to everything as if it's mine and he shouldn't have an opinion, and said it's his house too. I ended up calling him delusional for expecting me to rehire her after the stunt she pulled on Lauren, and I won't let it happen because my daughter can't feel comfortable in her home. He got very upset for what I said and stopped speaking to me since then. Am I the arsehole? Edit for those asking why we'd need a babysitter with a 14-year-old in the house. First of all, the babysitter is for my younger children, 6 and 4. My daughter does not need a babysitter, obviously. Second of all, my daughter is incapable of looking after her brothers for several reasons. She already made it clear and I wasn't going to force her to do it. Besides that, hiring a babysitter became normal and is part of our lives, but this issue occurred. Now, the biggest thing that jumped out to me in this story is that, well, obviously the husband is prioritizing the relationship with his friends over his daughters in this one, by the sounds of it. But if he was to retake in this babysitter and let her back into the house and, forgive her and let her move on, even though Lauren's saying she doesn't want to ever see her again and all that kind of stuff, you're just playing down your daughter's feelings, and that's going to cause resentment towards you as parents. And that's the way I could see it, and I think that's the way I'd feel if I was in Lauren's situation. I feel like it was a betray of trust. So I don't think you're the arsehole at all for standing your ground on this and saying, she's not welcome back in the house. There's absolutely plenty of other babysitters out there, I guarantee you, and you can vet them and find out, that this isn't the only babysitter in the world. And the husband can go down this route of saying, he agrees with you on this, but kids her age make mistakes, blah, blah, blah. But it's not about that at all. It's about Lauren's feelings in this and the way she's feeling. So absolutely not the arsehole. But Copper and Node says, not the arsehole. If you let this teenager back in your house, it's pretty much guaranteed that Lauren will never tell you anything ever again. Your husband needs to be a father and stand up for his daughter. And I'm sorry, do you say she recorded herself reading her diary? Why? To show her friends, post on Facebook, reach out to this girl's father and tell him exactly what happened. And Am I a Real Bunny says, is anyone else interpreting teasing as bullying? Sounds like the babysitter is a mean girl. Lauren needs to be comfortable in her home, especially when she is vulnerable and grieving. Maybe some more therapy for her. I'm not sure why dad is putting this friendship on a higher pedestal than his vulnerable child. This may be a good lesson on acceptable behaviour for the babysitter, especially if she's working around children. You do not violate someone's privacy, and that video. What other videos she made of the kids in her care? Do the parents know whether she has posted or shared other video of the kids? Is a cold person who bullies younger teens, especially one she knows is grieving. Mama made a good decision, not the arsehole. And Redditor says, not the arsehole, you were the adult in the situation. She was bullying your daughter, and I'm horrified your husband cares more about his friendship than that. And ANM313 says, not the arsehole, the babysitter is old enough to know that you don't go reading other people's diaries, especially out loud. That was humiliating for Lauren. How the fuck did she even think that would work? And even before she made fun of Lauren for the difficult time she was going through with leukemia and losing a friend. This is bullying behaviour. Your husband is wrong and he is prioritising being inconvenienced over his daughter's emotional health and well-being. And we'll have one more from a ring pie moth saying, not the arsehole, your husband cares more about his friendship than his own daughter. That's awful. Don't let this girl into your home. She's a bully towards Lauren and has been since day one. Your husband should be mad at his friend for raising such an awful child, not at you for protecting your daughter. And now let's move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Ugly Duckling 1701. Am I the arsehole for snapping at my housemate after me doing laundry in the middle of the night kept her awake? I, 20 female, live in a student HMO, house in multiple occupation, just for anyone that didn't know, because I didn't know. On the ground floor, there are 2 bedrooms directly off of the kitchen. The washing machine and dryer are in the kitchen. The walls in the house are super thin and you can hear everything that goes on in the kitchen from those 2 rooms. Understandably, the people in those rooms have asked everyone else to avoid being too loud in the kitchen after 10, which includes laundry because the washing machine and dryer are quite noisy. I appreciate how much this must suck for them, so I try to be as quiet as possible if I'm in the kitchen after 10, and almost never do my laundry at that time. Last night I was pulled into work to cover the closing shift, 6 PM to 11 PM, for a colleague who was sick. Whilst at work last night, someone walked into me while I was carrying plates of food and it went all over me. Today I was on the opening shift, 6 AM till 12 PM. I only have one work shirt, branded with the pub logo, so I had to wash the shirt before going into work today. I decided I'd rather do the laundry when I got home before going to bed, rather than having to wake up early to do it. By the time I got home, I worked 20-minute drive away, it was nearing 11:30 PM. It takes a minimum of 2.5 hours to do my laundry. 1.5 hours is the shortest cycle for the washing machine, and the other is a 1 hour in the dryer. Around 12:15, halfway through the wash cycle, L, 27 female, who was in one of the rooms of the kitchen, messaged the group chat saying that she was trying to sleep and asking whoever is doing their laundry to turn off the washer and finish it in the morning. I messaged back to apologise and tell her that I was washing my work clothes. Elle then responded asking me why I was doing it now, so I told her that I was on the opening shift tomorrow, so I needed to wash my work clothes tonight. She then started asking why I can't just wear them without washing. It's not like anyone's going to know, so I told her about the shirt was covered in food. She didn't respond after that, so I assumed that was the end of it. Every Sunday, as a household, we cook a roast together and then spend the evening drinking. Tonight, when I went home, and throughout the cooking, eating and drinking, Elle was frosty towards me. Just after 10 PM, she stood up from the table and said she was going to bed early because she didn't get much sleep. This is the part where I think I'm the arsehole. I snapped at her saying, so what, she got to lie around all day and do fuck all. I just got over 3 hours of sleep after doing laundry and had finished before working a 6-hour shift. And this was after working a 6-hour shift on what was supposed to be my only day off this week. Elle stormed off to her room after that and slamming her door. N, who was in the other room of the kitchen, says that the laundry was annoying, but he can understand that I had to do it, and that he would have said something worse to Elle if he was in my position. The other 3 say that I'm the arsehole because I shouldn't have snapped, especially after I'd kept her up last night. And we'll start straight away with Bagheera Cat saying, you're the arsehole, you could have washed your shirt in the sink. But besides that, she did nothing wrong, saying she was just kept up by you and wanted to go to bed early, then you yelled at her. Vertical Perception says you're the arsehole. As the saying goes, poor planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on mine. Your post makes you sound entitled. Living with other people requires consideration and better planning. And no, getting pulled into work doesn't constitute either an emergency nor unforeseeable circumstances. All your excuses sound like a you problem and not a her problem that she is obligated to suffer or deal with the consequences. You were wholly inconsiderate because you felt that your needs were more important than your roommate's need for sleep. That you had the girl to snap at her rather than being utterly apologetic and sorry for your lack of consideration makes you a complete nozzle. And Jane says you're the arsehole. First off, I don't get why you have one work shirt. I mean, isn't it standard policy to have at least 2 you can swap out? Irrelevant to the situation, but still curious. Regardless of that situation, you did keep her up. It was an unfortunate situation and you couldn't have done anything with the circumstances, and you wouldn't have been the arsehole if you just rolled your eyes and let her go to bed. How much you slept isn't her issue. You don't get to decide what she does in her time. You woke her up. The civil thing to do is apologise and leave it be. If she's cranky, it can be annoying, but it's fair for her to be cranky. And Spinach Clerk says, you're the arsehole, your work schedule isn't her fault. There was no reason to take a swipe at her that way, just for saying that she's tired. And again Painted Inky says, you're the arsehole, you kept her awake, not the other way round. You could have been an adult and acknowledge fault, apologise and never do that again. Instead you chose to act like a child and complain at her for shit she has nothing to do with, as if your problem should mean that you get to treat others as terribly as you wish. You're an arsehole for doing laundry when people are trying to sleep, and an arsehole again for having a tantrum over being called out for it. And we have one more from Tasty Food saying, I'm not understanding all these you're the arsehole judgments. If you are regularly doing laundry late, you'll definitely be the arsehole, but you had a work emergency and your laundry needed to be taken care of. Living with others requires compromise, and it sounds like this was a one-off event, so both of you just need to move on in my opinion. No one's an arsehole here because I can totally empathise with your roommate being annoyed and cranky from lack of sleep. I get the same way, but you're also not the arsehole for having a work emergency. I'd encourage you to ask your work if they can get you a second shirt so you don't have to disturb your roommates if something like this comes up again. Now, what do you make of today's collection of stories? What are your verdicts on today's stories? Your thoughts? I always love to hear them. Please feel free to share them below in the comments if you choose to do so. But again, never any pressure either, just if you want to. And just a huge thank you for spending 20 minutes or so out of your day with the channel, and getting involved is absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. If you would like to support the channel further, you absolutely can by clicking that join button down below for YouTube membership, or heading on over to Patreon. The link is in the description, and joining up there. Again, never any pressure to do so, just if you choose to do so, it's really helpful to the channel. Thank you so much for your love, your support and your time, and I will see you in the next one. Anyway, I hope so. Much love, guys.